Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Mike Ames Recruitment Show, where we have a show that we've been looking forward to doing for a while. We're going to be talking about how to get vacancies from TAs, and we have a professional TA on the show who's going to explain how to work productively with TAs. But before then, Michael, how you doing?
You pressed the wrong button then, didn't you?
Yeah. You could let that go as well. You could let that go and you didn't.
I'm okay, apart from the fact you'll notice a little difference in me today, because I was supposed to come back from Wales, where Mrs. Ames had given me a whole list of jobs to do, which I did last night, but I didn't finish until 8:20. I was very tired. So I decided to come back this morning. Trouble is, I'd got a 8:15 breakfast meeting here in the Midlands. So I got up at 5:45 and I'm jacked on caffeine. Seriously, off my right. So, it's great.
Everybody, please feel for my job today because I've got to rein him in.
My teeth are itchy. Yeah, I'm sure this is what it must be like taking cocaine. I don't know, but you can cut that out, can't you, for the podcast?
Oh no, we're live. And then the other thing, Dad, is I've kind of noticed is it a tan? Is it burn on the face?
I know. Well, our house is on the seafront, and one of the things I had to do is jet wash everything. Do you want me to show a picture of my jet washing?
Put your phone down.
Anyway, so, and the sea, the sun bounces off the sea, and you don't realise what effect it has. And when I went in at night, I spent all day out there, I looked at myself and it was like, oh my God, it's Rudolph. It's calmed down a bit now, actually. So must remember, note to self, put sun cream on next time jet washing. Anyway. So,
yes, right. Let's go back to the show, Dad. So as we spoke about, we're talking about TAs today. Can you talk a little bit about why we're talking about this today? And then we're going to introduce our guest.
Every time you say TA, makes me laugh. Anyway, let's move on. I'll tell you later. Right. So yes, because TAs are here to stay, ladies and gentlemen, as you all know. The deal is, if you can't work with TAs, then your business has either got to change, so you just target non-TA companies, option one, or your business has to change so you can work with TAs and make money from them. You can't stand still. You can't offer the same service that TAs offer exactly and expect to do business, because it's not really going to happen. So I thought it would be a useful idea to get someone on who's a TA, an experienced career TA, who can share with us the sort of things that you as recruitment company owners or recruiters can do to get business from and work with TAs. So we're going to invite Mike Dossett onto the show in a second. I first met Mike actually when he was a recruiter, weirdly, some years ago. And then he decided, I think he'll share his story, he decided that wasn't for him and ended up as a TA. And that's all he does now. And he's worked for some very big companies. So he knows a lot about the TA world. And he's perfect to come on and share with us what that means. So let's invite Mike in.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Hello. Very well. How are you?
I'm still confused about the TA joke, if I'm honest with you, and so is Gavin. So it's me and you together on this one, Gavin. I've got no idea.
If you put an ampersand between the T and the A. Anyway, let's move on.
I'm with you.
Can you edit that out, Kirsty? Can you edit that out?
Still live. Okay. So, Michael, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for inviting me.
Can you? I bet he wishes he hadn't come now. We're all professionals here. Can you give us a sense to how you got to where you are now, and a little bit about what you do, your role? We're going to dig into it in depth later, but just kind of headline it for us.
Yeah, so I've started an agency, moved into RPO and then the internal world. So I've seen it from both sides, you could say. So yeah, started in agency recruitment around 10, 12 years ago. I was horrible to start with. I was really bad. Obviously a lot more immature back then, a lot less experienced. So yeah, joined an agency about 12 years ago. And it didn't go too well, if I'm honest. So I guess the old conception about internal TA being failed recruiters could be true if we took that. yeah, so but then from there moved to another agency. I was there for about 4 years. Had some really good success there. It was like managing a small team by the end of it, doing mainly the sourcing element and some account management as well, and then transition into RPO. Then since then moved into the internal world. Worked for people like Microsoft, Amazon, Deliveroo. Yeah, did a stint at HMRC as well, which was fun. So the full spectrum. Yeah, I guess why did I move into TA? I guess it fits my personality quite well, really. So I kind of describe myself as a confident introvert. So I love working with people, but slightly introverted as well, if I'm honest. So it fit my personality sense quite well. Yeah, been loving it since. And as I said, worked for some great people.
It's interesting you say about that. Just to digress slightly, I know a lot of people won't think this, but naturally I am an introvert. I'm very happy in my own company. I have no real, if I go to a big room full of people, I'm in the corner, you know, it's not my natural way. What you see here is what I've had to develop over the years, quite frankly. And you know, you have to do that if you have to do that. But I guess, look at this in a second, as a TA, there's less need to be more outgoing, presumably. It's still relationship driven, of course, but you can just be you, I suppose. Whereas in recruitment, it's kind of hard to do
exactly, yeah. And I've learned to do that over the years with experience, right? So I'll speak to my mates the same way as I speak to a C-level individual at the moment. So that's critical, right? And yeah, I think over the years I've learned to sort of forget that first bit of like all that weird stuff at the start. That doesn't matter. It's like if you can be yourself as early as possible, that's what's going to add the value, right? So it does take years to kind of learn.
Let's dive in and talk about that then. Start with the brief. So for people,
I will say quickly before you do that, Mike, we are really lucky to have Michael here today. So everybody watching, if you do have any questions for him, please take advantage of this situation and let us know. And if you want to get started, just tell us where you're listening from today live. Pop it in the comments and let us know. But as we go through, please do ask as many questions as you want.
Okay, thank you. So what, for people to really understand, I mean, I think we all know what a TA is, or do we? So what's your brief, broadly speaking, in all the companies you've worked on? The first day you get there, they say, yes, welcome, Michael. This is what you're supposed to do. This is how you're measured. This is how we decide whether you've been a success or not. Can you share that with people? Because I think that's really important as a starting point.
Yeah. I'd say there's two key buckets or themes to the role. The first and obviously the most important is execution. In simple, plain language, that's making hires, doing recruitment. Without going into too much detail, I think a lot of internal people potentially forget that side as well, right? That's why you're there. You're there to make hires. But that takes up a big part of the role, right? So defining the roles properly, building strong relationships with stakeholders, defining the interview process, et cetera, and also driving offers and closing on roles as well. So that takes up a big part of the time. So I'd say, just to give some context as well, because people may or may not know like what rec load looks like for an internal TA as well. So I'll say from my experience in the companies that I've worked with, I'd say average around 15 recs on at a time, which I don't know if that sounds like a lot, but when you're working that end to end,
sounds like a lot to me. Yeah.
Sounds a lot to me, yeah.
Yeah. So it's busy from that sense. The other kind of like bucket or area is around like process improvement. So just looking at different ways of improving anything throughout the process, right? So looking at things like reducing time to hire, how do we improve signals in the interview? How do we increase our offer acceptance rates? How can we automate low value tasks? And just trying to think of it as a system rather than just looking at individual roles. And that takes up, depending on how busy you are with the rec load, say about 15 to 20% of your time.
Do you have to coach the hiring managers sometimes a little bit? Do you find that they've not really had experience in this space?
Yeah, very much so. More so on like interview style, reminding them that they're there to sell the business as well. Obviously we all know like an interview is a two-way street. So a lot of the kind of coaching is reminding hiring managers of that. So yeah, a lot of coaching through the interview process, but yeah, other stuff as well.
Okay. Out of interest, quickly before we move on, how involved are you in the plans of the company? Because obviously, from your point of view, do they tell you like, oh, this is the plan for the next 6, 12, 18 months? Or are they just like, this is the job, we need it now? How much kind of are you involved in the strategy element of stuff? It varies from company to company. Some companies are really good at forward thinking. They've got their workforce planning down. They know what hires they're going to make in the next 6 months. Some are a lot more reactive. It varies. But yeah, you have input into the strategy and forward thinking about what roles are going to come next and trying to pipeline towards those. I'd say in general, people are more leaning towards the reactive side because we're dealing with people at the end of the day, and it's hard to predict that at times. But yeah, definitely involved in the strategic piece.
Can I ask a question? Right. I think we all know the answer to this, but I'd like to hear it from the horse's mouth. The purpose of having a TA team from the company's point of view, is that solely to save money? I know saving money has got to be in there somewhere. Is that solely to save money, or are there other drivers for them to set up a TA team?
I'd say a big part of it is cost reduction, right? It's not everything, but it's a part of it for sure. That's obviously a no-brainer. The other part is like employer branding and making sure that everything's aligned from that aspect. I'd say in general it's a big driver, but not everything, no.
Okay, because the reason I ask that is one of the things you need to do to be successful if you want to work with TAs. Well, in fact, to be fair, this is if you want to work with companies that don't have TAs, is to really understand what they're trying to achieve, to really get under the bonnet, because only that way can you mold your approach and what you offer so that it rings a bell. And that's definitely the case in general sales, but even more so, I would imagine, with TAs. And we're going to look at that in a minute. We're going to look and dig real deep into what recruitment companies need to do if they're going to be taken seriously and given an opportunity. But I think what would you say that the no-nos are? What should recruitment companies avoid at all costs when they're approaching TAs or TA teams? Yeah,
there's a couple of I guess what not to do, but also what to do as well, right? Sorry, excuse me. The first one, and this is probably super obvious, right? But is to be yourself. Like the amount of like cold calls and stuff like that, where people are not being human and they're not being their self is just quite extraordinary. And again, I know this is a super obvious thing, but people buy from people. And the main thing that people are trying to establish is, do I want to work with this person? And if you're not being yourself and you're not being a person, people can't make that judgment. So I'd say the biggest no or thing to do is be yourself, which sounds very cliche and obvious.
Okay. Let me ask a question following on from that one then. Right. Yeah. So I get that. And all my life, I was trained in relationship sales back in the 80s. In other words, you build a relationship based on personality. Buy me and then you buy the thing, right? That's okay, so long as the person you're trying to build the relationship with gives you the space to do that. If you ring in and say, hello, I haven't got time, clear off, or you can't even get through. If you're busy or if you've got a lot of roles on, how do you decide who to speak to or not to speak to? How does that work? That's
actually a question that Charlotte brought up. In your experience, how much control the TAs have over the external recruitment partners they work with versus externals, the hiring managers have worked before. So who do you actually get to pick, or are you very much told who to work with? I believe
again it differs, right? But TA definitely have control over that. So yeah, I've worked at organizations where do you know what? I've never worked at anywhere where someone's told me who to work with, actually. No, it's on the TA. I'm going to be clear with that, actually. So yeah, the internal TA have full autonomy.
In a weird way, do you not think, though, that that's better? Because I remember the very first time in the late 90s where preferred supplier lists became a thing. Before that, it was kind of a loose arrangement, really. People used who they wanted to. There might be, oh, you should use this list or whatever. And occasionally there was a strict SLA, but sorry, a PSA. But actually, then it went to, oh no, if you're not on the list, you're not getting any work, mate. But now it's gone back to that thing. I really like that. Actually, if you can get to speak to someone, and we'll talk about that in a minute, how people can do that. And if you can build a relationship over time with them, then you can work with them. You haven't got to go through a pitch thing where you've got to get on the list and submit all your details and all that malarkey, which none of us like doing. Do you not think it's a little better now because of that? Weirdly.
Yeah, and I think a TA person saying you're not on the PSL or whatever, that's just an automatic response to just say no, right?
Yeah. Polite way of saying no.
Yeah, like it's like an auto-programmed rejection, right? So
hey, you know, though, the three things you need to be a successful business developer, right? You need creativity, because you can't do what everybody else is doing. You need persistence, because you've got to keep going. You're going to be told to clear off a few times. And you need patience, because it's going to take as long as it takes, you know. No matter how many bakers you put on, still takes 35 minutes to bake a cake. So I think that it's like that recognition that this is the real world. And if you work within it to the rules, you can be okay eventually if you're any good at what you do.
And on the relationship point that you're making, I've got the recruiters that I've worked with, mainly people that I know from before, right? Or from years ago. And I guess some practical advice or whatever. Like I get people that I used to go to school with ages ago that now work in recruitment. And they're like, hey, you're right, Michael. Like, and I know what they want, right? But I don't mind. Like, I'm like, yeah, if I can help you and I can give you roles, I will. And I have done so in the past. So I think that is a very simplistic way of obviously agreeing with your point that it is the long-term relationship piece as well. But also just tapping into your network and going, who do I know now that's moved into TA? Let's just ping them, have a chat. And like, who cares if they know what the end goal is, right? They will help you out because you've already got that relationship in place.
Can we bring up that last question from Gavin, because it's a disagreement? You know,
how you like this. So Gavin has said he disagrees, Mike. Unfortunately, too often TAs are procedural people and have different objectives than hiring managers or external recruiters. This is often not their fault, as they are quite simply not given enough resources to be able to do their job properly.
Right, I'll take that point. I'll concede that point, Gav. I will. However, I think when you look at a community of people, whether they're hiring managers, whether they're senior decision makers, or whether they're TAs, they're going to fall into different categories. Some of them are going to be open to building a relationship. Some of them aren't. Some of them are going to be strict to the rules, some not so much, or prepared to work with you to get round them if it's in their own interests to do so. I think it's about covering the ground, personally. I think that you have to cover the ground because there's enough work out there. And if you start talking to a TA and they say, no, we definitely do have a PSL and you're definitely not on it, you make a judgment. I mean, we had all sorts of get rounds back in the day that we used to use for that. None of them were designed to change that person's mind there and then. What they were designed to do was to give us an opportunity to keep in touch. That's all they were. I don't think there's anything you can say these days in a pitch that says, no, you're not supposed because you're not on the list. Oh, well, what about this? Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, you're in. Never going to happen. No, this is about that patience and persistence. It's about giving you the opportunity to go back without ringing back in 3 months and saying, have you changed your mind? Because that's not going to work. Creativity is the key, right? Honestly. But
Michael, I just want to get Michael's point, just thoughts on this, and then we do have to move on. So, Michael, do you have thoughts on that? What Gavin said there?
Not really, to be honest. It's often not their fault.
Do you think TAs are often kind of overwhelmed with roles or not given enough resources, or do you think that's something to be considerate of?
I guess so. Again, it depends at the company you're working for,
Yeah.
right? It's just like tarnishing TA with like one brush. I know that's a thing to say, but it's so many different organizations that are so, some of them are so much mature with their TA function than others that it does depend what the function's like and stuff like that. So it does differ a lot. Place that I've worked, I've been fortunate that they've been mature environments, they've got the tools, they've got the resources needed, but I appreciate that's not always the case. So I guess that's the in as well, right? For agencies to establish who doesn't have the tools, who doesn't have the resources. And that's
we're going to come to that point in a minute, because I really want to talk about the in. I like that.
That is very, and there's a couple of questions.
Can we just bring up Gavin?
No, we're not. We're bringing up later. Stop spoilers. So no, we will be bringing that up in a second. But before then, we do have a message from our sponsor, and that does remain to be us.
Oh, that'd be me, wouldn't it? Yeah. Okay. So if you're a business owner, a recruitment business owner, and any of these things that I'm going to show you now relate to you, if they resonate, I've got a genuine offer. I'm not going to make money. It's not a sale. It's an offer, which lots and lots and lots of people have found very useful. So let me just show you now. So do any of these sound familiar to you? Right, particularly the first two, although I think all of them relate to what business is like in the modern world. Because if they do, if they connect with you, this is what we've got for you. And it has worked for many, many people. In fact, what I'm about to offer now has gone from something we always struggle to fill to us being at least 1 month, sometimes 2 months in advance. It's a workshop which is online for a profit, lifestyle and wealth business. So it's not trying to grow a business and become a mini Michael Page or grow a business to one day sell it. It's a recognition that that's probably not for you. You just want to earn a lot of money and not work all the time. That's the deal. So we are going to build a safe. That means it's not prone to external problems or issues which could threaten it. High profit, very important. Very important. The focus on a business is net profit, but you don't need to be there day to day, or if you are there day to day, you pick and choose what you do. So here's the deal. The next one that we have is on the 25th of June. It's online, 4 p.m. till 6:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So if there's some of our American listeners tuning into this, that's okay. Even on the West Coast Pacific time, you can still get to that. 8 attendees. Now I know, because I just checked a few seconds ago, that on that one we have 4 spaces left. Right, I know because I just checked that before we went in. It's free, and I'm bound to say this, it's a pitch-free zone. No pitches. Now people ask, why do we do this and there's no pitches? Because what we're looking to do is demonstrate that we know lots of things and we're reasonable people, because you're more likely to work with us if you do. That's the point of it. Now, if you'd like to come, just put PLW Workshop in the comments below, and we will send you a 1-pager. So just, I'm not going to assume you want to come. What you want to know is a bit more. We'll send you a 1-pager. It's up to you then whether you come or not. If you're listening to this on the podcast or you're watching this later, you can just DM me. Right, so PLW Workshop, just DM me or send it to mike@flair.co.uk and I will pick it up. Bottom line is, if you want to build a high profit business that doesn't need you in it all the time, you need to structure the way in which you do things differently. I think it's substantially better, but you will learn all in 2.5 hours in our workshop.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so now we're moving on to the question that I've been asked in numerous different ways, but I'm going to pick Andrea's as the main question is, what would be the bait for a TA team to pick a specific agency to work with? So I guess, Michael, what we're really asking is, if I'm a recruiter and I want to work with a TA, what can I sort of offer to a TA, which means they will actually probably work with me?
I'd say the main thing would be around specialisms. That's super important. In general, internal TAs are generalists. Obviously, they're working across different business functions. Obviously, you get go-to-market internal TAs, and you'll have your tech specialists, but real deep specialism is obviously missing in the TA world. I've had a lot of recruiters approach me and hiring managers before that claim to be specialists, right? And then you have a quick look at their LinkedIn, and there's no content there. There's no actual evidence of them being a specialist. So I say specialisms really would help. I'd probably say that's the main one, but actually really being a specialist, if that makes sense.
Well, can I reflect that actually and reinforce it? Because I've got a client in California, and I've checked if I can say this, and I can. I'm not going to give away the trade secrets of him, but he solely works with TA-based businesses. Actually, that's who he goes for, because his stance is very simple. He says he's very narrow in what he does, but very deep. He spent 15 years building a network, and he says the vast majority of candidates he has comes from people he know or people they know, right? Not all of them, but that's where the majority come from. And he says his approach, I'll paraphrase, is, look, I know you've got to do what you've got to do, and that's fine. Have a look at the market, see if you can find something. But if you struggle to get someone in these spaces, and he's chosen disciplines that are really hard to find, then I'm your guy. That's all I do. And what you're actually doing is buying access to my network. That's what you're doing. You're buying access. I'm not going to look on the job boards or on LinkedIn, because you're going to do that. Why would I? I'm going to speak to people, and they're going to speak to people on my behalf. And 80% at least of the people I find come from that route. If you want that, I'm here for you. And that's pretty much his pitch. And he's not trying to do their job for them. He's not trying to circumnavigate them or get to the hiring manager or any of that nonsense. It's, no, I'm here. I'll be your partner in this space. And then he goes. And if I told you how much money, he's got a little team, 3 or 4 people. If I told you how much money he made, you'd be blown away just by doing that. So
would that work for you, Michael? Those kind of approaches? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. The other thing outside specialism that I rarely see, or if anything, never see, is honesty with like CV pictures as well. So not just the pictures, but if it's with an existing client, for instance, and you're forwarding a candidate or whatever, but really highlighting, because it's like a marketing doc really, and it's always, they're good at this, they're perfect, the best in class at this, best in class at that. I don't think I've ever seen anyone say, oh, but they're lacking in this, and really highlighting that side as well, which again sounds super obvious, but I think it's quite good practical advice really, to really highlight stuff that the candidates are missing as well when sending them across. That obviously builds credibility, because the other stuff then becomes more believable, right? But it highlights any.
Can I pitch this to you, Mike? I'm a recruiter. Okay.
Yeah.
And I've got to the stage either where I feel comfortable in sending you a speculative CV, or you've given me a role to look at, or whatever. And on the front page, right, there's a little description from me, warts and all, pointing you into the CV. So you ask for this. Look, if you look on this page, he's got this. When he worked for so and so, he did that, and this, that, and the other. But above that is a suitability matrix with the key roles, skills, or experience that you've asked for. And it says that the last time they used it, the number of years that they spent using it. And I know you've got to be careful with the ageism thing. I get that. But the number of years used. And then an assessment of 1 to 5 of their proficiency based on my interview. 1 being absolutely outstanding, 5, they don't have it, right? And when you get it and you speak to them, you realize that assessment is correct. I have been honest with you. Would that, if you got repeated CVs from me and it was proved to be accurate, would that make a difference to you? Would you bubble my CVs to the top, or take them seriously at least?
Yeah. And going back to my point about it not just all being positive as well, because that makes it more believable, right? For sure. And that's going to save me a lot of time reading through a big blurb, a big CV. But I think to get to that point, you would have already had to build some credibility for me to believe that. But once the credibility is there, yeah, for sure, that'd be a
If
great.
the credibility is, if I send you this CV and you look at it and those numbers aren't what you expect, then tell me and I will never contact you again.
Yeah.
Right. So I stand and fall on this CV, basically. Would that be enough for you at least to give me a little chance then?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, sure.
Because I think you have to put yourself out there. I think too many people don't want to take risks. It's like, no, really, this is what I think. And if I've got it wrong, well, fine, I'm out of here. But if I've got it right, you can trust me. And then the next one will reinforce it, and the next one. Because I just want to be the go-to guy, the go-to girl in this space. And I need you to trust me.
Mike, I have 2 questions that I want to bring up. I really appreciate your points, but I'm conscious of time and I have 2 questions. So number 1, Michael, this is more of a statement that I would appreciate your thoughts on. So Kate has said the key difference between internal TA and external is also market intelligence, because obviously a lot of recruiters are speaking to a lot of people. Do you value, Michael, the kind of market intelligence that an external recruiter can give you?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if someone can provide stuff that can make me credible in front of the hiring managers as well, of course I'm going to take that, right? But then ultimately that's going to win business as well. So yeah, market intelligence is huge. Yeah, agency are probably speaking to more people, different industries and stuff like that. So yeah, the more info, the better. And I think that's definitely going to set you apart from just access, right? That's actually going to bring some conversational pieces. So yeah, you're talking around the market and all the market intel, what are the competitors doing. Salary benchmarking's really important as well. A lot of organizations might pay for a salary benchmarking service or something like that, so they can get their hands on any kind of free live market insight as well. That's only going to add value to that relationship, but the service that person's providing as well.
Perfect. Okay. And then there's this question, which I appreciate, from Andrea, who said, would you expect agency candidates to be tested for technical and soft skills before they come to you?
Yeah, 100% soft skills. When I think of soft skills, I think more company alignment, so aligning with the company's values. So that's massive, and a big part of the internals job is because we've got more access, right? We understand the culture more, but that's not to say that an agency recruiter can't learn that too. Mm-hmm. So again, that's going to really set you apart, really understanding the soft skills that are aligned to the business that you're either pitching in or an existing client. So yeah, for sure. With technical, yeah, obviously, I wouldn't go as far as to say technical tests because that'd be part of the overall recruitment process. But yeah, obviously some form of technical assessment for sure, but without doing technical tests.
I want to ask a question on the back of that. I think Gavin's made a very good point there as well. Perhaps bring that up in a second. But this soft skills thing, right? Alignment to values. I completely get that. And I think everybody should hire people who've got the same values that the business has before they consider anything else. Genuine question, if someone rang you up that you've never heard of and said, look, I'm not ready. I'm not in a place that I can actually help yet, but I'm just doing a bit of research. If you want me to send you candidates that actually fit into your values, right? Would you be prepared to share your values? Because I can't find them on your website anywhere. Would you be prepared to give them the time of day, or would you just brush them off as being
No, 100%. That's taking it to the next level, right? That's not just chucking over CVs and hoping it sticks, right? That's trying to learn about the business. And again, it's a conversational starter. And as an internal TA person, we have to think about that, right? So it's almost to the point that why would I give an external person a role if they don't understand those, because they're just not going to fit in with the business. They're probably not going to pass the interview process because they don't align. So I would go as far to say that it's almost like a must to understand those to be able to ultimately make hires.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I am conscious of time, so I do want to move on. We've kind of been touching on this a little bit, but part of what we've spoken about is people coming to you as an individual, as a person, them coming to you with things that are a bit specialist outside of what you do. So when it comes to adding value to you, we've spoken a little bit about market intelligence. We've spoken a little bit about kind of understanding what it is that your job is. Is there anything else that a recruiter could do to come to you and add value to you, either as an individual or as a company?
Yeah, I would say taking away as much of my workload as possible, right? that's the point. I think another kind of hesitation or blocker of me in the past working with agencies is kind of the thought process of like, I could do this myself, right? And then because if you're just supplying CVs and that's just a glorified sourcing service, right? And a lot of internal companies also have internal sourcing services. So I guess from the time element, what can I take away from you? Because if I'm just being passed CVs and then go, look, these are good, crack on, I still have to do the rest, right? I still have to get them through the interview process. I have to prep them. I have to do the stakeholder management piece. So I guess like if you're going to put that in a practical advice, just simply ask the internal TA person, like, what can I do to take some time away from you and make your life easier? And just asking that simple question. And it could be as easy as doing the interview prep. And some TA people might not want to give too much information away, but it's like, why would you not want to do that, right? Because that's ultimately going to increase the conversion rates. It's going to increase the candidate experience. So yeah, I'd say, yeah, just ask what can I take off your plate, right? It would be quite useful.
To your point, we did some research because I saw some research that I didn't believe. And so we did our own, and it kind of borne out that about 77% in our survey of candidates were as interested or more interested in the company they were being asked to join as they were the role they were being asked to take. And totally understandable when you think about it. Who wants a great role at a crappy company? So if the agency understands the EVP of the companies they're dealing with, much of which you can get from the internet, you can Google it, get it off their website. Do you think if they said to you, well, I've spoken to them and basically what I've pitched your company as boom, 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 headlines of your EVP,
yeah,
and they're really interested in that, do you think that would make a difference? Is that what you're talking about when you're talking about doing the briefing up front?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just working backwards from that, right? And then understanding, because your candidates are ultimately going to be better as well if you understand that. And then you're going to be able to pitch them better. So I don't know if there's a conception of whether it's just the way I work, but I think if you're going to work with someone, they need the full picture, right? So maybe just don't be scared of asking that sort of thing, and really getting your head around that. As you said, the EVP, any like strategies that you're shifting with your recruitment strategies. Obviously, AI is a massive one at the moment, and some organizations are really moving towards being as AI fluent and AI forward as possible, right? So I've even seen a shift where some companies won't hire unless you show like AI fluency in any role whatsoever, even if it's not a specific AI role. So it's about having those conversations, see where they're shifting with their hiring strategy, and then aligning that as well.
That's interesting. I think just bring that last picture, that last comment up from Gavin we talked about earlier, because I think we forget that sometimes.
Let me just read it out for the podcast, Mike. The absolute best pitch is one where you bring a solution to the problem. In this case, you bring the perfect 3 candidates for the role, another demonstration of one's niche knowledge.
Because that doesn't matter whether you're dealing with TAs or end clients. At the end of the day, people think people buy a bum on a seat when they recruit. They don't. They buy a shortlist, and they buy a shortlist of people that match the brief and if they're offered the job, we'll take it. That's your job. And it doesn't matter whether you're dealing with a TA or a hiring manager in a company. It's the same thing. And I think sometimes we do forget that. It's about the quality of the candidates ultimately.
Right, perfect. Okay, so we are coming towards the end of the show. So Michael has agreed to stay here until we've answered kind of as many questions as possible. So if you do have any now, please pop them in. In a second, Michael, I'm coming to you for your top tip. But before then, Big Mike, can we talk about the next show that we have in 2 weeks?
Yes, we've got Sean Anderson of Hoxo fame coming on the show. And obviously things are moving quite a lot in the sales BD space. So we're going to keep a simple one, really, how you can boost your sales in this market. And Sean and I are going to kick that one around for 45 minutes in 2 weeks' time. I'm really looking forward to it.
Perfect. Okay. So we do have a couple of questions coming in that I'll come to in a second. But Michael, people are watching this and they've been given the gift into the brain of a TA, which is who you are. So they're watching this and they think, I want to, Mike said earlier, you either choose to work with TAs or you choose not to. And these people are saying, no, I like the world of TAs. I want to work with them. From your point of view, what would you say to them that is important for them to know before they do that?
Yeah, I touched upon it before, but I'd say that time is the currency, right? I think a lot of people can supply exceptional candidates. I can find exceptional candidates sometimes, not all the time. But, and as I said before, a biggest blocker I'd say of not using agencies is because it's not taking that much time off me. So at that point, there's not a huge amount of value. Well, there is obviously because you're receiving good candidates, but as I said, that's more outsourced sourcing, and most teams already have that. So where agencies I think can really win is where they're understanding the full hiring process, not just finding candidates, but knowing what each stage is assessing and really prepping the candidates properly on those. So that I think that's where it really adds the value is understanding what can I take off the internal TA's plate. And as I said before, just asking the simple question, like what can I do to give you time back? I think really makes a difference.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you very much. Okay. So we do have some comments, but I wanted to ask a question actually that I've been thinking about because we work with a lot of recruiters and sometimes there is this kind of misconception that perhaps the TAs are the enemy. And there's this idea of circumnavigating the TA. So going to the hiring manager or going to somebody senior and almost forcing the TA to work with you. And I was wondering, from your point of view, how does that make you feel about the recruiter and how likely are you to work with them again outside of that role after that?
I think ultimately you've got to remember that it's always going to be the TA's responsibility to fill that role. It's my rec load. If that doesn't get filled, it's going to be on me or whoever it is, right? So I think people probably forget that as well, right? So there's a bit of that, and maybe where a bit of blockage comes in. I'd say just partner with TAs as much as possible. Hopefully I've articulated it the best I can throughout this, right? But I think there's the point is that people either have the budget to use external companies or they don't. People either use external or they don't, but it's really about trying to be different and really trying to have those specialisms in place so people want to work with you, you're a nice person, etc. But to answer your question directly, I'd be a bit, am I allowed to swear on this?
You want to.
Don't say the big ones.
Yeah, I'd be a bit peed off, right? If someone did do that, it wouldn't be the end of the world or the end of a relationship, because then there would be a full analysis after. I go, okay, they are making hires. Is that the end of the world? And then that is an in as well. So probably not the best advice and stuff like that. So
can I just put a caveat on that, really? And before I do, I just want to add one little favour. If you've enjoyed the event, could you put down what you've liked about what we've done? We're trying to refocus the event, the show, and trying to get it really focused in on what you want. Can you say what you liked? And if there's a subject that you'd like us to cover or a guest that you'd like to come in, just put that in the comments, please, and we will do our best. Help us to make this show even better than it is now. Just wanted to end with this story. I once placed someone in the way that you suggest, Kirsty, and it wasn't a TA, it was a HR person, right? A resource person in those days. And she said, oh, yes, well done. And we made the placement. She said, yeah, this is a really good person. The hiring manager absolutely delighted. You're not going to get any more business here ever again. And she did it face to face. She went to go into the office to tell
brutal. Mad respect to her.
I know, it's a confectionery manufacturer, but we'll leave it there. But it was like, oh, okay. So I learned a little lesson there. I never did that. Small fee, no more business.
Perfect. I respect that. I think that's very well put, Michael. Very, very. I like it. Okay. So the last question here, Charlotte's asked a question, and it's two parts, but I'm focusing on the first part of this question. Do you think, Michael, internal TA teams are under pressure to do as much as possible in-house these days, so that they're using external support less?
Potentially. So let me just reread that. So are we using less?
Are they trying to save money, I guess? Are they kind of trying to keep things as in-house as possible?
Yeah. I think AI has a big part in this as well, right? So a lot of teams, not just recruitment, right, are streamlining their teams. So teams are smaller. So yeah, at the moment, not just me, but a lot of people are looking at how we streamline stuff using automation, AI and things like that. So there's a lot of time saving there. And I could talk about AI for ages because I'm really diving deep into it. But I think that's another point. And I'm going off the subject totally, right? But I think agencies need to be doing exactly the same as well, looking at their processes. How can we streamline them? How can we look at our inefficiencies as well? And then not only can you talk very credibly to clients about AI in the world of AI, but you can also streamline your efficiencies as well. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure in internal TA, but there's a lot of pressure to make hires as well. So there's always going to be a need for agencies, as I said, especially with specialisms, people that can make a difference. So there's always going to be a need for agencies. So yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And then the final comment that I want to bring up before we close is from John. And I just think he really summarized it. So he said, Michael summarized it brilliantly. If you understand the culture and can represent it in the market, if you can make a TA look good and take work off their plate, then they will keep coming back to you. Do you agree with that, Michael?
That's it. 100%. That's the line.
Absolutely nailed it. Perfect. Okay. Right. Unfortunately, I told you the show goes so quickly. We've come to the end now. So first of all, I want to thank everybody who's watched today, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching recording. Thank you. And I really want to thank everybody for their questions and comments. We always like it when we get a lively show. So thank you very much. I want to say a huge thank you to Michael for being really open and really honest and sort of taking the time out today for being here. So thank you, Michael, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
When you said Michael, I just thought that was me then. But
never that nice to you, old man. I'm never that nice to you. But I will thank you for being here, for getting up very early to be here, even with your suntan or sunburn, whatever you want to call it. So thank you to Dad for being here.
What about my caffeine rush? What about my caffeine rush?
I'm less happy about, actually, strangely. It's been,
okay. Well, can I take the opportunity to thank you, Kirsty, for being the hostess with the mostess as normal, keeping this damn show on the road. And I'm hoping you're going to do the same with the great Sean Anderson in 2 weeks' time. God bless him. So it's going to be good. Thanks, Michael. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks to all of you for tuning in.
Hi, guys.